Hello and welcome to another unofficial Logic 2000 tutorial. This is kind of a preliminary tutorial to get you acquainted with the derivation window and show you the various shortcuts you can use. Alright, let's begin. Before we go into the main Logic 2000 window, I'd like to draw your attention to this little window in the lower right hand side of the screen. This is a utility called key status that shows which keys and mouse buttons are being pressed. For example, watch what happens in that window when I type Ctrl-Shift-C. Now, watch the window while I press the left, middle, and right mouse buttons. This utility is not part of Logic 2000, but I'm going to have it running during the tutorial in the hopes that some viewers will find it useful to see exactly what keys I'm pressing when I type various keyboard shortcuts during the tutorial. If you want to use key status for your own tutorials, you can get it from this URL. Or, just search on Google for Key Status Monitor. Now back to Logic 2000. From the main window, you can just click the Derivation button to bring up the derivation window. From here you can press the Select button to bring up the list of problems. Let's start with the first problem. Now we've loaded up a problem to work on. This very top line contains the argument that we'll try to derive. More on exactly what arguments consist of in the next tutorial. Note that this top line is highlighted in yellow, which means that's the line containing the cursor while we'll be typing. The only thing you'll be doing on this top line is hitting the Enter key, which I'll do now. Now you'll notice that there's a new line with 3 columns in it. The middle column is highlighted in yellow, and that's where you'll be doing the vast majority of your typing, though you can also type in the left column. The right column is where the program will show errors, and you can't type in it. You can move from the middle column to the left column by hitting Shift-Tab, and from the left column to the right column by hitting Tab. This is a good spot to talk about keyboard shortcuts in Logic 2000. This program has a lot of keyboard shortcuts, and I strongly suggest you make as much use of them as possible, as your derivations will go much faster the more typing you do, and the less you use the mouse. You've already learned 2 keyboard shortcuts, Shift-Tab and Tab, to move between columns. Now I'd like to teach you another useful shortcut, Alt-Delete, which will delete a line. Try that now, and hit Enter, and Shift-Tab. You should be in the left column. You can also left-click on the lines and columns to move your cursor there. Let's right-click our mouse button in the left column. You can see that a window has popped up. You should recognize this window from the symbolization tutorial. Once again, you can hover your mouse over the symbols to see what their keyboard shortcuts are. Remember, these keyboard shortcuts will always start with Ctrl-Shift, followed by a mnemonic like Ctrl-Shift-C for conditional, which will type an arrow for you. Now, if we left-click back on line number 1 in the main window, the pop-up window should disappear and the left column in line number 1 should be highlighted again. Let's hit Tab and right-click in this middle column. A different pop-up window has appeared. This window contains shortcuts and justifications that we can type into the middle column. The 2 top rows of this window contain justifications that you should have already been exposed to in class and in the book. Except for a line starting with the word show, otherwise known as a show line, everything in the left column will have to be justified using one of these justifications. For the sake of brevity, these justifications are in an abbreviated form. Here's what the abbreviations mean. Please refer to your class notes and the book for further details on how these justifications work. Now, on the 3rd and 4th lines in this pop-up window are the shortcuts, not to be confused with the keyboard shortcuts from the other pop-up window. These you actually have to type out in full. If you hover your mouse over these shortcuts, you'll see what each of them stands for. For example, show CONC stands for show conclusion. Unlike the justifications, you would not write these shortcuts out on paper. They are only instructions to the computer to save you some typing and to keep you from making certain silly errors, and for that they're very useful. I'll go into detail about exactly how you'd use some of these shortcuts in the next tutorial. For now, just know that should you need to remember what some of these shortcuts and justifications are, you can always bring up this window by right-clicking in the middle column. Also remember that when you do your justifications on paper, like for a test or practice, you'll want to write down the line number, everything in the left column, and everything in the middle column, except for these shortcuts. The shortcuts are only to be used on the computer. Okay, that's it for this tutorial. See you next time.